The knock at my door was faint but insistent. It came at the dead of night, echoing through the quiet streets of my apartment complex. I rubbed my eyes, certain I was still dreaming. "Who?" I muttered, peering through the peephole. No one was there. Then a flash of shimmering light appeared at the doorway, and before me stood a woman unlike any I had ever seen. Her skin glimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with an iridescent light that seemed to pierce through time itself. Her presence filled the room, bending the air, bending reality almost, and making my pulse hammer in my chest. "You promised me," she said, her voice melodious but commanding, like a symphony and a storm at once. "Centuries ago." I staggered back. What? Who are you?" "I am Selara," she replied simply. "And you owe me a debt you swore long before your kind even knew the stars." I laughed nervously, assuming sleep deprivation had finally caught up to me. "I think you've got the wrong guy. There's no centuries-old promise." I barely remembered my rent was due. Selara's eyes narrowed, but not in anger, in quiet certainty. "Do not mistake what I am for fantasy. Time is not linear to me as it is to you. We met long ago, and you swore to return a debt. Now, the stars have brought me back." Before I could respond, she stepped into the apartment as though the threshold recognized her presence, bending to her will. Her touch was cold, yet it sparked an indescribable warmth across my skin. "You," I whispered. "You're alien." "I am far more than you can comprehend," she said. "And you, human, are the one who must fulfill what was promised. The journey through time and memory." At first, I resisted. How could I possibly owe anything to a being from beyond the stars? My life was ordinary, mundane, filled with bills, late-night coffees, and forgotten deadlines. Yet, Selara's presence was impossible to ignore. "You remember nothing because your species experiences time linearly," she explained one night as we stood on the roof of my building, gazing at the city lights beneath a sky full of stars. "But I exist outside of that flow. The promise you made echoes in my timeline, waiting for your action." I frowned. "You mean?" "I made a promise in a past life." She tilted her head, her silver hair shimmering like liquid starlight. "Call it what you will. But what was agreed must be honored, or consequences will ripple across your world and mine." Over the next days, or what I perceived as days, she guided me through strange visions. Scenes of a past civilization flickered in my mind, of humans walking alongside beings like her, not as slaves or observers, but as equals, and yet, somehow, bound by sacred pacts. In these visions, I saw myself swearing to protect her lineage, to return what had been stolen, and to guard her people against extinction. "You were young then," Selara said, reading the confusion on my face. "But even then, you knew the importance of what you promised. And now, the time has come." The moment I accepted the visions as real, the room around me shifted. We were no longer in my apartment, but aboard a starship, suspended in orbit above an alien world that glowed like molten emerald. Her people, tall, ethereal beings with translucent wings and eyes like burning opals, awaited me. They regarded me with a mixture of hope and suspicion. Selara turned to me, her expression softening. "You see? Your promise was never just words. It was a bond that binds lifetimes, and it is now your duty to act." My heart pounded as I realized the enormity of it. If I failed, entire civilizations might collapse. I wasn't just dealing with alien royalty, I was dealing with galactic stakes. Continued, the trials of a human. Selara did not coddle me. She trained me, not in the traditional sense of combat, but in perception, strategy, and diplomacy. Her people tested me constantly, presenting ethical dilemmas and simulated crises to see if I could think beyond human limitations. One test involved negotiating with a rogue faction intent on seizing the planetary core. I had to convince them that cooperation was necessary for survival, not with threats or weapons, but with logic, empathy, and courage. Another test required me to traverse a temporal anomaly, stepping through fragments of time to retrieve a relic crucial for Selara's lineage. Each failure was painful, every success astonishing. With Selara's guidance, I began to understand the true scope of the galaxy and the role humans could play beyond Earth. Through it all, something remarkable happened. I grew to trust her, not just as a mentor or guide, but as a companion. There was a bond that transcended time, species, and understanding. And one night, beneath the twin moons of her homeworld, Selara whispered, "You have fulfilled more than the promise of old. You have earned something new, my trust, and perhaps something more." Climax: the confrontation across worlds. Our trials culminated when the remnants of a rival alien empire launched a sudden attack. They had learned of Selara's return and sought to claim the power she wielded. If they succeeded, the balance of the galaxy would collapse, undoing the work of centuries. I stood beside Selara as the enemy fleet descended. "We can't win by force alone," I said, recalling the lessons she had imparted. "But we can outthink them." Using the strategies Selara taught me, I coordinated the defense, exploiting weaknesses the aliens never anticipated. Human creativity, combined with her wisdom and the strength of her people, turned the battle in our favor. As the enemy retreated, Selara placed a hand on my shoulder. "Centuries ago, you promised your loyalty. Today, you proved your courage." I looked at her, breathless, and realized that the centuries-old debt had transformed into something profound: respect, partnership, and a bond that defied space and time. Ending: a promise fulfilled and a future forged. After the battle, peace returned to Selara's world. Her people celebrated the human who had not only kept an ancient promise, but also proved the limitless potential of our kind. "Your species is young," Selara said quietly as we gazed at the stars, "yet you carry a strength that transcends the ages. Never forget that." I will not," I replied, feeling the weight of centuries lift from my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I understood that the promise I made so long ago was never about obligation alone. It was about trust, courage, and the willingness to rise beyond what I thought possible. Selara smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "Centuries may separate us, but some bonds endure. Yours has endured, and now we face the future together." And as I looked out at the endless stars, I realized that life, time, and even the galaxy itself were full of possibilities I had never imagined. The alien woman at my door, the one who claimed I owed her centuries ago, had not just returned to collect a debt. She had returned to change my life forever.